Hi everybody, are you ready for day 3 of learning English? So welcome to day 3, class 3 of learning English. And today we are going to combine the storytelling. So we are going to combine reading, storytelling and your speaking practice. We all know that speaking practice is really very necessary. It's important to develop fluency, and today we are going to directly target that fluency in this particular class. I'm going to give you a great technique to practice your English, and I'm going to give you a speaking task, a targeted speaking task for your fluency at the end. For that, you need to listen to the story. That is important in order to complete that particular speaking task, which is going to add to your speaking fluency today. Are you excited and ready? So, as this is day number 3, class number 3, today we are going to begin chapter number 3 of this particular novel that we are reading in the 7-day series. And the name is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Chapter number 3. Okay. The narwhal with steel plates. Chapter 3. The narwhal with steel plates. Now listen very carefully because your speaking task, your speaking practice depends on this particular listening task that you're doing. I'm going to read, you're going to listen. So you are even improving your listening skills. Let's test them. Are you ready? Let's begin. I had fallen into the ocean with such a force that I landed up 20 feet deep into the water and was going deeper and deeper. Suddenly, I felt someone holding me by my clothes and pulling me to the surface. It was my loyal servant, Consul. Seeing me fall into the sea, he had jumped behind me to rescue me. He asked me to lean upon his shoulder. I caught hold of his arm and asked him where our ship was. Consul said that the ship had been badly damaged. It was moving away at a great speed. We could only see its fading lights. Apparently, the crew members had not noticed that we had fallen into the ocean. Consul supported me and tried to keep me on the surface, but I could feel that he was getting weak and tired. Leave me, Consul, I said to him, but he refused to leave me. He said, it is my duty to save your life. If at all we should drown, I will drown first. Such was his loyalty towards me. I could feel my hands and feet getting numb due to the ice-cold water of the ocean. My legs had become cramped and inflexible. I could no longer hold on to Conceal. Sea water had entered my mouth. I began to sink into the ocean. I felt something hard knocking me. Then I could remember nothing. When I came back to conscious, I found myself out of the water. I looked around and found Conceal kneeling over me, and Ned Land was standing behind him. I asked Conceal where I was. It was Ned who spoke. He said that we were on a floating island. He had found the island when he was thrown into the sea. A floating island, I said with surprise. Ned smiled and said, it is a floating island. It can also be called the back of your enormous narwhal. However, this narwhal is made up of steel plates. I was surprised to find myself on a creature partly immersed in water. I pressed my hand into its skin. It was very hard, unlike the soft, fleshy skin of most of the water animals. It was unlike the skin of the alligators or turtles whose body is covered with hard, bony shells. I felt the skin again. It seemed to be made of hard steel. Its surface was well polished and plain. I realized that it was not a living thing. It was a fish-shaped boat. It was so designed that it could move under the water, and that too at a great speed. For a moment, I felt happy. If it was a boat, there could be crew inside it. We were safe. The crew members inside would rescue us. Ned, however, thought otherwise. We were safe only as long as the boat was on the surface of the water. If it dived inside the water, our lives would be in danger. We started to look for some kind of opening or any such device through which the crew of the boat could know that we had landed on the surface of their boat. We searched the surface thoroughly but could not find any opening. All the steel plates of the boat were well bolted. Ned came out with another idea to draw the attention of the crew members off the boat. He started jumping on the steel plates and shouted at the top of his voice, "Open the doors! Open the doors!" We also followed him. Soon all three of us were shouting, "Open up! Open up! Open up!" A few minutes later, we heard a clinking sound and were surprised to see one of the steel plates open up. Two men emerged from the opening. Their outfits were quite strange. Their caps were made of otter skin. They were wearing loose clothes that were made up of unusual material. Their shoes were made up of seal skin. None of us had ever seen such unusual outfits before. One of the two men was tall and had an unyielding expression on his face. He had observant eyes. He was calm and seemed to be a courageous man. I thought him to be the captain of the boat. The other man was rather short and had broad shoulders. He seemed to be a strong man. The tall man whom I thought to be the captain looked at us with his piercing eyes. Then he spoke to the shorter man in a language that we could not comprehend. I decided to speak to him in French. I hoped that he might understand French. I introduced ourselves to him and told him how we had come to land on the surface of their boat. The captain gave me a patient hearing, but he did not understand what I said. Then I turned to Ned and requested him to speak to the captain in English. Perhaps he might understand English. Again he listened quietly, but gave such a blank look that we were disappointed. He had not understood anything. Then Consul tried to explain to him in German. He was also not successful in making him understand. I tried once again. This time I spoke in Latin, yet we got no response from him. He stood silent before us. Then he went to the opening and spoke something in his language which we did not understand. A few moments later, 8 strong people came out and held us by our arms. They led us to the opening. At the opening, we found an iron ladder. We climbed down the ladder. The men led us to another opening inside the boat. We were pushed into the opening and the door was closed behind us. The room in which we were locked was completely dark. We tried to find an opening but were not successful in doing so. As we were not used to the darkness, we stumbled over a table and fell to the floor. Ned was angry at being met with such behavior. He shouted angrily, saying, "We had talked to them with such politeness, and they have treated us in such an inhuman way. It is really disgusting. They have imprisoned us in an iron prison." I tried to calm him down. Just then, lights of our room were put on. The lights had a strange type of glow. Soon after, a warden of the boat came in with dry clothes for us. There were shirts, pants, underwears, and caps. The clothes were made from the same material as the clothes worn by the other member of the crew. While we changed our clothes, the warden laid the table. I was surprised to see the finest quality of china and silverwares being laid on the table. I had never seen such lovely wares before. Each of them had an N engraved on them. I wondered if N was the initial of the captain. We were very hungry as we had not eaten anything for the last 15 hours. As soon as the food was served, we began to eat. The food consisted of various types of fish and other seafood. Everything was very deliciously prepared. So here come to the end of this reading session. Here we come to the end of this particular chapter. So the reading part for today is done. Now let's come to the speaking part. Are you excited? I know speaking is something that all of you ask me a lot, ma'am. How can I speak in English? What can I do to practice my English? So now we are going to practice English. For that, I'm going to assign you a speaking task. Now listen very carefully. There are going to be 3 steps in this particular speaking task. Because you are learning English on your own and you're watching this video, I'm not there to give you any kind of feedback. You have to be really truthful to yourself and you have to complete this task in order to improve your English, in order to improve your fluency. And how you can do this again next time, I'm going to also give you tips on how to do this particular task again and again repeatedly whenever you want to. Now listen carefully. In this speaking task, the first thing that you have to take care about is that you need to speak for at least 1 minute. I'm going to assign you 3 topics and you have to speak for 1 minute on each of the topic that I'm going to give you. Everything will be related to the story that we are doing. So if you have not watched previous 2 lessons, I suggest you go and watch them, so that you know, you have an idea about the story and you have more content to speak about. So if you know the story well, you'll be able to speak more. You will have more content to speak about. And you might even speak for 2 minutes. So target at least 1 minute and normally you can speak for 2 minutes. Set the timer for 2 minutes. That's what you need to do. But if you are thinking that you will not be able to speak in English for 2 minutes, then you need to set the timer for 1 minute. At least 1 minute you should speak. Otherwise, that is not a speaking task. If you're not speaking for even 1 minute. Now what you have to do is, number 1, you have to describe what you liked about the story so far. That can be from previous chapters and that can also be from this chapter, this particular chapter. It can be from anywhere throughout the story till now. We have done 3 chapters. You can tell about anything that you liked. Anything, whether it's the character, whether it's the narrator, whether it's the monster that they're talking about, or the settings of the novel, the settings of the story, where it is set. You can describe anything. I'm giving you so many examples in order to help you out. So either you can talk about any character, you can talk about this particular theme of the novel, theme of the story. You can talk about the settings of the story. You can talk about the worship. You can talk about the monster. You can talk about the way they were treated inside that particular boat, the strange boat. You can describe it. Whatever you liked best, you have to describe it. And then there is the narrator. Who's the narrator? The professor is the narrator of the story. So you can talk about Professor, you can talk about Ned Land, he's the best harpooner, he's with them. So you can talk about anybody or any aspect of the story. Speak for it for about 1 minute. If you want, you can do it right now and pause the video. Pause the video and you can speak right now. If you have something in your mind, do it, go ahead. Pause the video and go ahead. Now for others and who's paused the video and come back for more, the task number 2 is going to be something from this chapter, today's chapter. That is, you have to describe the whole chapter in your own words. Give the summary of today's story in your words. Use your own words, describe it. Describe whatever has happened today in the story, in today's chapter, whatever has happened. You have to give a kind of summary for the particular thing. Summarize the whole chapter, the story, in your own words. I think for this, you should at least speak for 2 minutes. That will be necessary. 2 minutes. So in this particular task, speaking task number 2, set the timer for 2 minutes, minimum 2 minutes this time. And you can stretch it to 3 minutes. If you're stretching it to 3 minutes, I think that's excellent. But then you need to speak for at least about 2 minutes. Now what you can give in the summary? Well, if I'm helping you, actually that's going to be cheating, but that's okay. I'm going to give you some hints. Do not worry about it. You need to summarize. You can start with the settings, where the chapter began, what was going on, what happened, what was the strange thing that were happening. You can describe the feelings of the character. You can describe how you felt about the characters, who's your favorite character, everything. You can talk about anything when you're summarizing. So you can also talk about the story, what's going on, from where it began, what's going on, and how it ended. 3 parts. The beginning, what was going on, and how the story ended for today. Just today's chapter, not the complete novel, today's chapter. I think that's not so hard. If you have listened carefully, you will be able to do this. Now, speaking task number 3. You have to predict what is gonna happen next. Are these people good or bad? These strange people, this strange boat that they have stranded on, are these people good or bad? Predict, make a prediction. What do you think? And also give your reasons. Why do you think that? You can take examples from the story. Because there are mixed signals. I felt that there are mixed signals. They can be even good, they can be even bad. So what's your opinion? Are they going to be good or are they going to be bad? What kind of people are they going to be? Make prediction and also give reason for that. Speak on it for about 1 minute. I think 1 minute is okay, but at least 1 minute. So this time you need to set timer for 1 minute. Speak for 1 minute on this particular topic. Now what is going to happen is, when you're speaking for all these 3 different things, you're going to use a lot of vocabulary that I have used while reading to you. You will not realize that you're using that vocabulary. The vocabulary is there in your subconscious mind. The vocabulary that we covered deliberately in the last class. So last lesson was on vocabulary only. We learned some new words. We learned the meaning, the sentences and everything. What will happen is you're going to use them. Subconsciously they are in your mind and you'll start using the vocabulary that is there in the book. It's a really good way to put that vocabulary, whatever you have learned, new English that you have learned through this reading session, you'll immediately put it to use and hence it is going to be there. Now your mouth is habitual of practicing that particular vocabulary. Through this speaking task, whatever passive vocabulary that you acquired, passive is that you have not used it till now, you just listen to it. You are going to turn it into the active one, that is you're using it now. So passive is just listening, active is using it in your speaking tasks or day-to-day conversations. So you will turn your passive vocabulary that you've picked from this particular session, from these classes, into your active vocabulary. And hence it's going to be there in your memory for a longer time and you might even use them a lot in the coming up sessions, maybe in your daily life, day-to-day conversations, and hence you'll become fluent in English. So this speaking task is really necessary for your fluency. And you can do this anytime you read a new book. Whenever you're reading a new book or whenever you're listening to one of my sessions for these 7 days, after that you can do this task that you can summarize whatever you have listened to. It's a great way to solidify the vocabulary that you've heard, plus improving your English fluency because you're practicing, you're speaking, English speaking. So that's it for today. That's the lesson. Please do your speaking task, do them honestly, and then see the difference. This was it today. Today's reading English and then improving your English speaking skills. Before going, do like the video, share it with your friends and subscribe my channel if you're new here. If you're new and you don't know me, then I'm your Cambridge CELTA certified English language tutor. I'm certified by the University of Cambridge, UK. Now I'm gonna meet you tomorrow sharp at 8 a.m. with day 4 and lesson number 4. Till then, take care and bye.